Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Dr. Johannes Vrana with us today. He's CEO at Vrana GmbH in Munich, Germany. Johannes is a consultant. He's a solutions-oriented guy, a speaker. He's into workshops and digital transformation or Industry 4.0 nowadays. So we're going to talk about all of that today. This podcast is brought to you by podpair.com. If you want to start, scale, or be invited to a podcast like this one, you can go to podpair.com. It's also brought to you by Qual Your Mind. If you want to optimize your brain, this supplement helps with focus, memory, and drive. You can go to neurohacker.com/CEO Wisdom. Johannes, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. What I'm nowadays doing is mostly doing or helping my customers getting started with digital transformation. And therefore, it's mostly doing workshops with my customers where we lock ourselves into one room for 2, 3, 4 days with 15 of his employees, which we handpick. And then we get together with them and we develop together with them their strategy for their future and identify the use cases they have for digital transformation so that afterwards they have a vision and then we can start working on a roadmap how to get to that vision so that they do not belong to those 84% of failed digital transformation projects, but to those 16% who are actually successful.
Right. So you spent some time at Siemens, more than a decade. What prompted you to start your own business and branch out of Siemens?
It was for a long time, it was quite interesting at Siemens because Siemens, I had an interesting job. I was the NDE go-to guy for all issues in our procurement world. So whenever any of our suppliers was doing some testing on their material, me and my team were the ones looking, do they really fulfill the quality assurance requirements we have Siemens had? And I had about everything I could, or I had all the opportunity. I could do whatever I wanted because I think my bosses, they knew that I was doing a good job. And that was, by now, it was the perfect start of kind of starting up my own company because I had to work independently and it was great. But at some point, it is a big corporation and in big corporation stuff sometimes doesn't go like you want it to go. So at some point it was really like, I need to do something different. And I wanted to do something different after about 15 years in that job. So I started my own company. In the beginning, it was really very technology-oriented consulting because I have a very strong technology background. I'm a physicist. But very soon, it started to shift from really technology consulting more to management consulting because actually it was kind of a natural process because if you do consulting of more consulting for technology, you have to convince people that this is good. And if you want to convince them that this is good for them, you have to get into people consulting and to the human side of it. And therefore, that's how I got into more a general management consulting type of business.
What is Industry 4.0 and why is it important for us?
It has a lot of benefits, but I think for me, the most obvious one is we have personnel shortage. We don't have the personnel to produce all the stuff we need. And there is only one way, and that's a higher degree of automation. And currently we have so many humans who go to computer A, read something on computer A, and then put something into computer B. Where the human is that middleman who's just typing information from A to B. And that's nothing where you need a human for. We humans, we should not focus on such repetitive tasks, but we should focus on the stuff we are good at, and that's being creative. And therefore, this is the chance we can get to with Industry 4.0, with digital transformation, getting rid of all those small processes where we need a human in between and having this all being done automatically so that it works and that we can focus on what we are good at and that our companies can actually therefore getting more profitable and get the personnel they need.
Right. So I'm a serial experimenter in this email here. I'm in Oaxaca, Mexico, and they produce mezcal here. And my vision, if I ever re-get into CPMG, would be high-end luxury products, right? So the bottles of mezcal would start at 10K. The challenge here is that the customer could choose their own AI designs on the checkout, right? So we could use ChatGPT for that. To command an image, right? Then once they have their image, I would need this bottle 3D printed somewhere near in the world, near the US or Canada, because that's where the clients are. How could such a glass 3D printing AI using machine exist? Is it, and what do you think about this project here?
I would think it's a fascinating project. And it's exactly what Industry 4.0 and digital transformation is about. You can get towards a lot size one production, where you have something like a chat GPT creating the 3D sculpture based on your input. And then you would have to create somehow an interface between that one and the 3D printer. It's all doable. I think the more the challenge, so from a technology standpoint, it's all kind of ready. Some technology development would have to be done, but I would think you really would have to see, okay, what customers do you have? Is there a sufficient customer base? Do you have all the necessary skills to do that development? And so on and so on. So I would think it's more about the human side also in this project than about the technology side. Even that for sure you will have to work on the technology side, but on the same side also on the human skill side.
Yeah, the human side, I've got it definitely. And my specialty is 0 to 1 and, starting projects and getting interest from it. I'm just wondering, does such a 3D printing machine already exist somewhere in Mexico or in the US? And should I deal with them as a supplier? Or should I straight up go to China, which is usually where these things are made?
On that one, I would have to do some research. I have never looked into 3D printing of glass. So this is something you would have to look into, whether there exists already some 3D printing process. I could imagine yes, but I'm not 100% sure. Perhaps there is also that you first have to 3D print somehow something so that you can cast that bottle into it. So it's kind of a two-step process, but that would be some R&D, and I am not really in glass production.
Because each bottles would be personalized to the customer, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the future also of objects, is everything that we own will be super personalized to us. Now, yes, you're right. Like the glass, it got me thinking, because the glass is like a bubble. Its property, it expands with air, right? And that's why it's so reflective. So that would make it hard to have a liquid like gel harden out. But yeah, these are all interesting things. So Industry 4.0, is it mostly cloud based as well? Today I was talking with one founder about a robotics company, right? Like let's say Boston Dynamics. Elon has the Megatron going, or whatever it's called. And these companies, in my opinion, what would make it interesting would be if they would all operate in the cloud and have physical testing facility in a low-cost labor place in the world, for example, China. So we would develop 99% of the product on the cloud on a software, right, which would mimic the laws of physics in this reality. And then someone in China would actually test it 1%, and that would be 1% of the cost because it would be almost fully ready. Do you think that's how a new robotics company should be built? Because it seems that Boston Dynamics is not built that way. They're very much physically intensive.
But I would also think that before actually testing the robot in real, that they also have pretty advanced software development tools or software simulation of the hardware. Because I bet to get those robots in that way they are doing it, you have to do the simulations first, and then at some point you try it out whether it really works in reality or not. And yes, I'm absolutely sure that it will more and more go towards a solution where you will have more kind of digital twins and stuff like that, which help you really test things before you actually have to go to the reality. And it already brings a lot of benefit to the companies, and it will bring more if we get more data sources integrated into that digital twin. And that's also, you asked before about whether everything will go to the cloud. Yes and no. At the moment, a lot of companies are very shy on going to the cloud. But eventually, in my opinion, there is no other way, because we want to fuse various data sets. And once we want to do that, then we have to go towards a cloud, because that's the only place where we can connect data sets from various companies. And also, if I think about especially small companies, if I talk to a 15 people company and they are telling me, oh, we don't want to go to a cloud because we have issues with the security. They have half a person working on IT security. That person can never be as good as the security people of a cloud company. So for a lot of companies, it's actually a security benefit going to the cloud, because they have the personnel who's really specialized in stuff like that. So yes, I think eventually 10, 15 years down the road, everything will be going to the cloud. And then it will be something like where we can connect a digital twin, and we have some 3D printer standing somewhere in the world and being shipped to us. I don't know. I think at some point also this process of we have cheap labor countries and expensive labor countries. I think at some point it will balance out, because we already see in China the salaries are going up, in India the salaries are going up, and if that continues for the next 25 years, we do not have any more any cheap labor countries. So, but yes, there will be a distribution all around the globe, and we will have specialization more than we even have today.
Tell me about the idea of accelerating science and discovery by making these experiments on the cloud and again from a distance. Do you feel that this is mostly what's missing for academia to make more discoveries at scale?
Yes. There is, or it also depends, but what I currently see that, especially in the field where I'm coming from, non-destructive testing, which is ultrasonics or X-ray done on technical components. So we look into those components and we get somehow a reflection back from some inclusion which we have internally. Then we say, okay, we have an inclusion, and therefore scrap that component. But there is only very little knowledge about what that signal really means. And we could learn so much more about what that signal means by having a digital twin helping us to analyze it better, to understand better. And that's only one part of science. Now, if I think about physics, in some future, also a normal physicist usually they build up an experiment. They have one computer and they get all the numbers, and then perhaps they do some AI and they get some results. But at some point, they will have to fuse more data sets to get data from the outside, to get data from a cloud, to have it all integrated, to actually learn more about their physical problem that they know up to the moment. And I think that will be the big benefit for it. In my eyes, digital transformation, fusing data, will be a big leap forward for science, because it means that science can now has more knowledge about what he tried to learn. So it's, in my eyes, yes, it's a big chance for science.
Last, can you comment on Elon's Gigafactories and how this might be the way to scale products and industrialize faster?
Some of the concepts of Elon are interesting. Some I do not like that much. I see that there are benefits of having those gigafactories, because you kind of have a lot in-house, a lot in-house what you can control. But on the other side, therefore, you need to have everything, all the expertise in-house. And yes, I'm not saying that you should be outsourcing everything, but also insourcing everything, I think, is not the right step to do that. Now, I haven't really looked in detail into Elon's gigafactories. But we can also see currently how he is currently struggling with Tesla. And let's see how to. But what I like is he's experimenting. He is taking some risks. And if we don't do that from time to time, we will never go forward. So yes, let's try the gigafactories, and if they fail, then we try something else. But doing the same stuff we did for the last 50 years, what all the large companies are currently doing, that's most likely also not the way to survive in the future.
How do you crack a hard problem on your side? What's your process to creatively solve a hard engineering problem?
Structured, approaching it very structured. Going away from brainstorming. In my eyes, brainstorming only brings up the 2 or 3 people in the room which have a strong opinion. And I must say, in the past, I was one of them. But if you want to bring out really good ideas for your customers, then no, that's not the way doing brainstorming. You need to integrate everybody. Everybody needs to believe that this, what they developed, is theirs. And once you already do the innovation or the idea generation together in a group, then you will also succeed later on. And then doing a very structured roadmap, which you follow and you adapt. You will have to adapt it. And one thing, don't start with a lean mindset. If you start with a lean mindset, you will always be, okay, I want to save money. I want to make it more streamlined. I want to cut resources. But that's not how to really solve an engineering challenge. If you want to solve an engineering challenge, you have to start with the mindset of an innovator. And once you have done that, once you have your roadmap, then you can at some point start using lean again, but not at the beginning.
Johannes, thank you so much for coming on today. Where can people find out more about you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find my company on the internet, Vrana GmbH. They can find a YouTube channel where they can find me. It's called the NDE 4.0 YouTube channel. And if you Google my name, you also will find me. So